Full disclosure, I'm a fully paid up taxpayer and have been for 33 years, and I pay tax at full levels throughout my career. So I'm a fully paid up citizen. My question to you is, are global politicians using the pandemic as a super flight to implement huge tax regime change?
Well, I think that this is something that people have wanted to do for a long time, right? And you know, any time's a good time for that. I do think that part of the impetus here in the United States, at least, is that there is a desire to pay for something that is fairly popular, and that is a very large infrastructure package. It is infrastructure plus, and a lot of things that some people would define as infrastructure and some people wouldn't. But there's this desire that has to get paid for in some form. It has to get offset in some form. And so the popular way to do that is to hike taxes on rich people and corporations. And when I say popular, I mean that polls really, really, really well. So Joe Biden and his administration are sort of coming from a position of strength rhetorically and popularly, although not necessarily one from a position of strength on actually getting votes to hike taxes, which is really deeply unpopular among Republicans.
That was going to be my next question. I think some Republicans potentially are going to compromise on this, but there's a lot of money in lobbyists, especially from big corporations. I mean, what are the chances that they get enough from the GOP to get on board?
Well, I think that, you know, Joe Biden, by signaling that he was open to negotiations here, but Republicans really do have to meet him maybe a little more than halfway, is he's saying, like, you guys, you're not going to be able to stand on no. You have to come to me if you want this to move, or I'm going to go do what I've got to do. Now, I'm mindful, Anne-Marie, because you know how I love playing the long game here. There's going to have to be a conversation about taxes at some point coming up in the next couple of years, because some of the provisions of the Republican-passed tax law start to expire for individuals in like the 2025 window. And so that starts being a pain point that you have to deal with as a potential cliff out into the future. So at some point in the next couple of years, that has to get addressed somehow. There is a presidential election between now and then, but that is something that's looming in the horizon. So maybe this is the start of that conversation, but that's going to have to come out. This is not necessarily baked in stone. And the first thing that Democrats are going to want is that corporate tax.
Do you think Stephen Major was with us, the global head of rates from HSBC? He said the debt ceiling comes up in the middle of the summer, and that could be one of the prodding points, as it were, on the tax debate. Couldn't it be?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the question on debt limit is going to be one that's you know, really big, because obviously the debt has gone up a lot, and there's an overarching debate about how much that matters, but it has gone up, and certainly a lack of potential revenue is part of what gets you to those deficit gaps, right? So taxes definitely plays in that. I know Democrats don't want to use this as an excuse, but Republicans, for lack of a better term, have found religion on this issue again. It was a huge impediment during the Obama years, as you remember, much less so during the Trump years. But it was a huge impediment. You've got a lot of people from across the aisle who are saying we need to start paying attention to this, including Democrat Joe Manchin of West Virginia, who is a pivotal vote on literally everything, and who Democrats cannot pass anything without unless they get Republicans on board as well. So this issue is really critical to not just people who are around the world watching Bloomberg TV wondering about effective tax rates, but also to, like, Biden and the Democrats' plans to do literally anything they want to do now in terms of infrastructure and some of their big agenda items.
Well, we're talking about how you're going to pay for it, but what is the agenda items? What's the first? I mean, this massive infrastructure bill is likely going to come piecemeal. What are they tackling first?
Well, I think, Anne-Marie, you know, look, you've got a guy who has ridden the rails so much that he has a train station named after him as president. You know, Joe Biden is really fond of infrastructure. He wants to do something about this. And a lot of these swing states, you look at infrastructure across the country, it varies, but in a lot of these swing states, up in the Midwest, you're driving on moon roads. And we just saw a big problem with Texas's grid. So you've got any suite of things that you could go after in there. But I think some of those tangible things are the first order of business. But I also think that this is a point where Democrats really want to expand the definition of the word infrastructure. And what I mean by that is that you could be sitting here talking about how child care for working parents is a form of infrastructure, things like that. Grid is going to be something that Democrats are going to bring up. And their basic broadband access is going to be a huge one that they bring up over and over and over again. And remember, all of these things individually, a lot of them are really quite popular. And so expect Democrats to go at this really heavily.